Welcome to the PrepNet, presented every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Talk2Me's Channel 14. Come join us to discuss everything about prepping and hear what others have done. Triggers. Triggers are events you set ahead of time for you to do something. In other words, if X happens, do A. If Y happens, do B. I'll put my fire chief hat on, for example. When we are given a structure protection detail on a wildland fire, the first thing that is done when we get to the assignment is to set triggers. These might be: Trigger 1. If the fire gets to the top of the ridge, we will radio incident command that the fire has topped the ridge and inform them about our next trigger. Trigger 2. When the fire gets to within a half mile of our location, we will pull back to the house and put away all unused equipment in preparation for leaving. Trigger 3. When fire gets to a quarter mile, we will pack up the rest of the equipment and leave, informing incident command. Trigger 4. If the fire gets to within 1,000 feet of us, we will abandon the rest of the equipment and immediately leave. This could include using an axe to cut the hose, instead of taking the few minutes to put the hose on the truck. All crew members are given this information, so everyone knows what we will do and when we will do it. It also gives us extra eyes to watch for those triggers. The commanding officer cannot be looking at everything, all at once, all of the time, plus running the structure protection assignment. Every plan you come up with should have triggers. Again, this is a stress-reducing thing. It's better to figure out now what you will do and when you will do it than when the emergency occurs. This will allow you to put more energy into the other things you need to do at the time of the emergency. You can combine multiple conditions into a single trigger. In our Trigger 3 example, which says, if the fire gets to quarter mile, pack up and leave, you could add other like conditions. Trigger 3 could say, if the fire gets to quarter mile, or the fire starts to flank us, or if the fire starts to get behind us, execute Trigger 3. You don't have to have a trigger for each condition if any of those other conditions would trigger the same action. Now you could create separate triggers for single conditions and then review them to see if you can combine many conditions into a single trigger. Here's a real-world prepping incident. Over the winter, the heat tape on the water line from my well to the house failed and the line froze. The outside temperature was only 10 degrees, not real cold, but cold enough. We can and have gotten down to over minus 30 degrees. That's the temperature, not wind chill. No water could be pumped to the house, and the electricity was still on. Trigger 1 was, if the well stops pumping water, check the electric power. It was on. Check the breaker. It was not tripped. Inform everyone in the house that we are on Stage 1 water rationing. Check the water line from the well to the house for breaks, leaks, or my case, a frozen line. Found the line frozen, and then call well repair. All of Trigger 1 happened within an hour of discovering the failure. Stage 1 water rationing for us is to start using our 5 to 7 gallon stored water containers for limited uses. No showers, no baths, no washing clothes, and minimal dishwashing. Water is only to be used for drinking, cooking, and sponge baths. No limit on water usage per person. Use water stored in non-potable containers to flush toilets. Trigger 2. Will the outage be less than 1 week? Either the well guy will come to check out the well in less than a week, or they will suggest a fix we could try first. If yes, the outage will be less than a week, continue Stage 1 water rationing. If no, the outage will be longer than 1 week, then go to Stage 2 water rationing. Stage 2 water rationing would put a daily limit per person to make our stored water last longer. Trigger 3. If the well pump is still not fixed within 2 weeks of failure, go to Stage 3 water rationing. Stage 3 rationing means we will start taking water from our 55-gallon water storage if most of our 5 to 7 gallon water containers have been used. We would also need to then implement our water replacement plans. The other condition of Trigger 3 was if we were already using water from our 55-gallon water drums to implement Trigger 3. We would not have to wait until 2 weeks had passed. Just to let you know, we only had to pull Trigger 1, but the plans were already in place if the incident escalated. The tech at the well company suggested I put a milk house heater in the well hole, which was 8 feet deep, to melt the ice in the frozen lines. It took a day and a half, but it worked as the grid was still up. If the grid were down, we would have had to come up with a different way to unfreeze the water line. We would also be pulling many more triggers with the electric grid down, so having an idea of what to do ahead of time works. A point here, as was said many years ago, don't let a crisis go to waste. If something happens at home, but is not a real disaster, and you have a prepping plan that could cover that incident, use your plan. You will then find how well your planning would have worked in a real emergency. This is part of the ongoing review of all your plans to make them work the best for you. As I completed the script for this topic, I was notified that the 20,000-person town 6 miles away from me had an alert to not drink the tap water due to a contamination incident. People panicked, went to every store, and bought every bottle of water they could find. At least 70% of restaurants closed because of this incident. There were even some people who abused store clerks when the stores ran out of water. This is the reason I prepare for everything and the worst case. You never know what or when it will happen. The more you are prepared, the better off you will be. Next week's topic will be, what are the categories?